Wow. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How is everyone this morning, this beautiful day? I was saying this morning in the first service that I recognized that it is starting to get lighter out earlier. I love it when that happens. I love it when that happens. So, is there anyone that's here for the very, very first time? Welcome. Welcome, welcome. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Reverend Dusty Ripplemeyer. I am the spiritual director of this amazing community, and we are a Science of Mind community, meaning that we teach the philosophy and way of life of Ernest Holmes from his teachings of Science of Mind. We believe that there is one God, that God is benevolent and loving and is within us, that it is a power and presence that we can use in our lives, and we come together multiple times during the week to celebrate that fact and to support each other on our spiritual path. So I'm very glad that you are here, very glad that all of you are here, and very glad that those of you who are watching this live streaming have invited us into your homes this morning. Thank you so very much.
The reading for today is by Jean Houston from her foreword to the Science of Mind text. And she writes, "The Science of Mind shows us how to be active and creative citizens in a universe and innerverse richer than all previous imaginings. Written in what some may believe to have been a simpler time, this work speaks to a future, more complex time as well. Although Holmes' use of language belongs to the 1920s and 1930s, the ideas expressed remain larger than the constraint of words and even more relevant to today's necessity. Holmes seemed to anticipate the world of the new millennium, with its compounding of factors unique to human experience. How can we deal with a world in the throes of whole system transformation, in which everything we have known is changing at so rapid a pace that we are caught between the dangers that threaten us and the opportunities that beckon us? Educated for the demands of a different time and place and culture, we are called to be re-educated, to use much more of ourselves in meeting the many new challenges that confront us. We have no choice, then, but to democratize greatness and utilize the whole continuum of human and divine potential. The Science of Mind says this is not only possible, it is what is expected of us. Indeed, it is that for which we have been created. These are the times. We are the people. And so it is."
So welcome to those of you who may have just arrived in the sanctuary. Our theme for the month of January is the living Spirit. Spirit is calling. And for this entire month, Spirit is calling us to remember the truth, to remember the universal principles that govern our universe, and to step powerfully into using them in our lives. It is a month of going back to the basics. The first 4 chapters of the Science of Mind textbook are the thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and how we use it. So the first chapter, the thing itself, is God. Not a God that is outside of ourselves, but a power and a presence that is within us and surrounding us. A God that is benevolent and available and always for us. Ernest Holmes says there is a power for good in the universe available to anyone, and you can use this power for good in your life. We have within us a power that is greater than anything we shall ever contact in the outer, a power that can overcome any obstacle in our lives. We have as much of this power to use in our daily lives as we can believe in and embody. So the underlying idea of this message is that there is a power and presence within us that we can use to create the life that we wish to live. It's good news, yes? Now, the second chapter, the way it works is through the creative process. Whatever you call it, there is a universal mind, a universal spirit, a universal presence, or a universal power that is the origin of everything. In the beginning, God, and out of that God's substance came everything else. All of the world of form, the entire world of form is made out of this energy. It is in everything, the seen and the unseen. All creation originates in this one source. We live in a spiritual universe. Everything is spirit. God is first cause, and the physical world is merely an effect. Breathe. Now, the third chapter, what it does is exactly the same on the universal plane as it is on the human plane, both individually in our own lives and collectively in the experience of the world. Now, we believe that the human spirit is one with the universal spirit. The Word of God is creative on the macrocosm, while the thoughts and the beliefs that we hold to be true are creative in the microcosm. So according to our conscious and unconscious beliefs and thoughts, we create the conditions, we create the experiences, we create the circumstances of our lives. It's truly the good news, believe me. Now, by thinking, we set into motion a power that creates. Our experience of life is therefore at any given time an outpicturing of the thoughts and the beliefs that we hold within us, the beliefs that we hold to be true. All that is needed to make a change in our experience is to change the consciousness behind it. Change your thinking, change your life. We go to cause to change effects as many times as we need to, as many times as we'd like to. There are no mistakes. There are no mistakes. So the quintessential question then is, what experience do I wish to have? What experience do I wish to have? Now, this question and our ability to create the world, the experiences, the relationship that we would like to experience is addressed in the fourth chapter called How We Use It. Now, Ernest Holmes says, just imagine that you are surrounded by mind, so plastic, so receptive that it receives the slightest impression of your thought. Whatever you think, it takes up and executes for you. Every thought is received and acted upon, not some thought, but all thoughts. Whatever the pattern we provide will be our demonstration. So as I said, this is the good news, but the problem is that we tend to reproduce the same circumstances, relationships, and situations that we have always produced. We tend to create from old beliefs that no longer serve us, or from old, worn-out stories that have become the context of our life that we create from. We tend to recreate in form the accumulated experiences of the human race over and over and over again. And when we do this, we do not allow for the presence of possibility, which is the very presence of God itself. Now, in order to shift the circumstances, relationships, and situations of our lives, what we are experiencing right now today, individually and collectively, we have to think a new thought. In order to shift the circumstances, relationships, and situations that we are experiencing today, both individually and collectively, we have to, as Jean Houston said in today's readings, utilize the whole continuum of human and divine potential. It is not about seeing what is, it is about seeing what is possible. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry says, "A rock pile ceases to be a rock pile the moment a single man contemplates it, bearing within him the image of a cathedral." Isn't that beautiful? So the truth is that we cannot continue to look at the circumstances, relationships, and situations that we are experiencing in our own lives, or that the world is experiencing today, by trying to find a solution at the level of the problem. Throughout time, this is what we have done time and time again, and we always get the same results. More of the same. More war, more fear, more hunger, more doubt, more, right? So we have to think a new thought. We cannot change the world by simply moving around the pieces that we see and expect to get or to create something new. It just cannot happen that way. And it cannot happen that way because the world of form is an effect and not the cause. An effect cannot cause another effect. We have to go to the cause. We have to work at the level of the cause. So this is true not only for us as individuals desiring to change our own lives, but it is also true for all of us on the planet desiring to change the world. World conditions challenge us to look beyond what we see, to look beyond the world of form, to look beyond the status quo in order to find the answers that we are looking for, in order to create the solutions that will work. We have to look within to the spiritual powers within us for change to happen. Marianne Williamson says a new spiritually based social activism is beginning to assert itself. It stems from not hating what is wrong and trying to fight it, but from loving what could be and making the commitment to bring it forward into form. Loving what could be. Now, loving what could be requires that we have an ability to see beyond what our human perceptions are telling us. Loving what could be requires an ability to see beyond the illusion of separation. Loving what could be requires an ability to see or to experience beyond the experience of lack and limitation, beyond our judgments, beyond our fears. Loving what could be requires that we see the presence of God in every situation all of the time. Loving what could be requires imagination and vision, and bringing forward what we can imagine, bringing forward what we can envision requires prayer. So this morning we are talking about how imagination, vision, and prayer can serve us in today's world. Imagination, our own wonderful human imagination, is actually the creative power of God within us. Our imagination is the power to shift out of whatever circumstances we are now finding ourselves within. We can experience our heart's desire through our imagination. Nothing is impossible to our imagination because it has within it, inherently within it, the allness of possibility. Our imagination is unlimited in what it can achieve. If we can imagine something, we can achieve it. Neville Goddard, in his book, Prayer, The Art of Believing, says, imagination is the beginning of creation. You imagine what you desire, and then you believe it to be true. Every dream could be realized by those self-disciplined enough to believe it. So underlying this is the idea that acting as if something is true activates something within us that actually really is true. When we persistently act from a state of feeling and knowing that it is so, it will be so. Believe it. Having a vision is seeing beyond what our human perceptions are telling us. Having a vision is seeing beyond the experience of lack and limitation. Having a vision is seeing with God's eyes the allness of possibility that is inherent within all of life. Derek Rydell, in his book Emergence, says, although an ability to problem solve is considered a good quality to have, it is often an obstacle to the solution. The urge to correct something is a form of resistance to what is, and what you resist persists. When you wrestle with a problem, you vibrate at the same frequency as the problem and remain stuck. Problems are symptoms of a particular state of consciousness and will always exist at that level. So having a vision raises us above that level. Having a vision and vibrating at the level of that vision allows us to rise above the vibrational level of the problem. When we focus on where we are going, when we focus on that vision, believing that we are already there, then not only do we draw that vision to us, but we actually literally create it. Now, Reverend David Alt says, the lens by which we view the world becomes the world we experience. Let me say that again. The lens by which we view the world becomes the world we experience. To contribute our gifts and talents, service, and pure intent to this massive canvas of humanity requires that we solidify a vision of the world as already whole, already harmonious, already working for the benefit of all. Now, he provides 3 practical invitations for us to use to serve the world that we envision. The first is to imagine the already existing wholeness within. To imagine the already existing wholeness within us, within the whole of the raised consciousness of the planet. Now, far too often we are seduced into taking actions that are fueled energetically by fighting against something. We may convince ourselves that it is our job to fight it, that it is our job to fix it, that it is our job to force a change. But the truth is that working or serving from this context simply does not work. It would behoove us to stand firmly grounded in the truth of our wholeness, the truth of our perfection as spiritual beings. The invitation is to offer our service to the world from a place in which we recognize that it is our responsibility to bring forward the wholeness that we know exists in every single situation, no matter what the circumstances are telling us. God is everywhere. Wholeness is everywhere. The second idea is to cultivate the vision. Now, to do this takes practice, dedication, and singular focus. Now, it is not always so easy to do that, to cultivate the vision, because the world provides us minute by minute contradictions to that idea, right? Now, what we know is that God is everywhere, or it is nowhere at all. It cannot be both ways. What I believe is that God is everywhere. And so, for me, in those situations when it doesn't feel as though the presence of God is actually present, then I consciously look for the presence of God within the situation, knowing that it has to be there. So I consciously look for it. Now, the underlying idea is that our awareness of the presence of God, simply just having that awareness of the presence of God, is enough to create a transformation of the situation, a transmutation of the situation. Cultivating the vision is not always easy. It takes time, often. While could come about in an instant, it more often than not happens incrementally over time. So our job then is to continue to keep our minds singularly focused on that vision, on where we are going. And when we do that, over time, we will bring about the desired changes, one person at a time, one situation at a time, one relationship at a time. The third idea is to move into empowered action. Now, inherent within us is a desire to serve, a desire to support, a desire to assist in bringing forth these positive changes to the world. Many of us are drawn to a cause of one kind or another. So the invitation is to investigate what that is for you. What is seeking to be expressed? What is wanting to be expressed through and as you in service to the world? And then to be willing to move into empowered action around that cause. Now, in order to do that, our actions must have a pure intent. This means that we are not overlaying our opinions or our perceptions, but that we are serving without agenda. That we are serving without agenda. In order to move into empowered action, we must let our actions be fluid. We have to be available to the flow of possibility. The solutions that exist in the world require our willing flexibility to be experienced, to be brought forward in a powerful way. Now, my talk title, did you think I was ever going to get to it? Is Plant Your Future Seeds. Right? Yeah. Plant your future seeds. Oh, good. Whew. Now, in order to plant the seeds of a future that we wish to experience, we must begin with the vision that we have for the planet, that we have for the whole of humanity. When we begin to see this vision in our mind's eye as vibrant and wholly alive, then we will begin to emit the vibrational nature of the vision itself. And when we begin to do that, then we become the vision itself. And when we are able to do that, then we draw it into our lives and into the world. Another way to plant your future seeds is consciously through the creative process. When we talk about it, about the creative process here at the center, we use the analogy of the seed and the soil of the plant. Hence, plant your future seeds. Now, we are powerfully able to connect into this creative process through prayer. Now, for me, in a month of going back to the basics, it is important to revisit this idea for all of us. If you've been coming to the center for any length of time, you would know that we do a kind of prayer here called affirmative prayer. That it is a form of prayer that is focused on the positive outcome and not on the negative situation. It is not a prayer of begging or beseeching, but instead it is a prayer spoken from a space of knowing that it is already done. Spoken from a place of being in complete alignment with God. It is the process by which each of us can co-create or co-manifest a new way of being in the world. Greater joy, greater harmony, greater peace, greater abundance, greater creativity, greater wisdom, greater freedom, greater grace, anything that we can imagine. Now, there are 5 steps that we practice when we're doing a spiritual mind treatment or an affirmative prayer. The 5 steps provide a structure and a technique that actually empower this process of prayer. Now, the 5 steps are recognition, unification, realization, thanksgiving, and release. In the recognition step, I recognize that God is all there is. I speak about its eternality, about its benevolence, its omniscience. I speak about its essence as the presence of peace or joy, creativity, love. I use the words that allow me to feel the presence of God within me and surrounding me. In the unification step, I unify my thinking with God, knowing that my mind is an individuation of the mind of God. In this step, I accept the idea that I am now thinking with the mind of God. I use the words that allow me to feel this unity, that allow me to feel this oneness with God. In the realization step, the realization step is next, and in this step, the word realization means to make real. To make real. So I consciously erase or dissolve any thing that has created some difficulty in me or in my life. I am willing to give up my false beliefs or opinions or judgments or attitudes. I use whatever words are necessary to establish in me the feeling that my prayer is already done, that my life is already whole, perfect, and complete. I use positive words spoken in the first person and in now time. It is happening right now. Not I'm going to be, but I am right now. In the thanksgiving step, I give thanks that my spiritual mind treatment is a new mental cause. It is a new mental cause that I have set into motion. And I am grateful for its manifestation. And in the release, I simply let go of the prayer and allow God to work out the good that I have established in mind. I am no longer concerned about the situation, and I am free to act as though the demonstration is already complete. And so it is. Yes? Norman Vincent Peale says, no matter how dark things seem to be, or actually are, raise your sights and see the possibilities. Always see the possibilities, for they are always there. The invitation today is to see beyond what our human perceptions are telling us, to raise our sights above the dirt and grime of the world, and to see the world through spiritual eyes. The invitation today is to use our imagination in order to act as if. To begin with where we are, individually and collectively right now today, and then to ask ourselves, what do I want instead? What do I want instead? And then simply imagine yourself there. The invitation today is to turn away from circumstances, from frustrations, from judgments, and from fears, and focus instead on a vision of a world that works for everyone. Hold that vision with singular focus, knowing that whatever we put our attention upon is made manifest in the world of form through the power and presence of God. The invitation today is to investigate what is seeking to be expressed through and as us. What is seeking to be expressed through and as us in service to the world, and then be willing to powerfully step into empowered action from a context of being for something. The invitation today is to pray, or to get somebody to pray for you. To use the power of affirmative prayer to change our own minds and to change the collective mind of the entire planet. And by doing so, we will change the world one person at a time. And so it is. So I invite you to turn within. And I know that as I close my outer eyes and turn my attention inward, I am acutely aware of the power and presence of God that is within me and surrounding me. I can feel its presence. I know of its benevolence. I know that it is a power and presence that is available, that it is willing, that there is nothing too big or too small in God. I know that I am one with it, that I was created by it out of God itself, that I am a hologram of it in its fullness, in its wholeness, right where I am at any given moment. And just as I know that this is true for me, I know that it is true for each and every person here this morning, that each of us is a unique and divine expression of the divine. And it is from that place of unity, that deep and abiding connection between God and ourselves, between ourselves and each other, between life itself, that I speak these words about and for each of us this morning, truly knowing that we are spiritual beings having a human incarnation, that we are imbued with the wisdom, the peace, the power, the creativity, the love, the wisdom of God. That we have within us a power and presence that we can use. That we can use as much of it as we can believe in and can embody. And what I claim for each of us today is that that is a lot. That we are here together to support each other in doing this. To remind each other of the truth when we cannot hold it or know it for ourselves. What I claim and know for each of us this morning, that there is that within us that knows what it knows. And what it knows is that we could catch more bees with honey. That truly being for something is a much better idea than being against something. For when we stand against something, we are at the level of the problem, in the same vibration as the problem, and we become stuck. But when we can raise our sights and see above, see with the eyes of God, we vibrate at a much higher level. We can create a vision that is powerful from that space. And so what I claim for each of us, that there is ease and grace around living our lives from this space, from a space that remembers its deep and abiding connection with God, from a space that remembers that there is a power and presence within us that we can use. And so I claim for each of us that we use it powerfully, effectively, successfully, that we each participate in creating a world that works for everyone. And I'm so grateful to know this truth, so grateful to speak these words, so grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes, that they are clothed in form even as they are spoken. And so I speak them and I release them with love and with gratitude and full expectation of their manifestation, letting go and letting God be God. And I invite each of us to anchor them for ourselves as we anchor them for each other, simply by saying, "And so it is." Amen. Amen.